Okay, so another thing that's going on, this isn't, technically a trial, but they're treating it like a trial, is the January 6th commission hearings, which I will say they are doing a pretty amazing job so far. They came out swinging big time last Thursday when they aired it in prime time, which is a really smart move. I just loved how they opened with Bill Barr basically saying that Trump didn't win the election. Um, and then I guess right after that they played Ivanka saying that he didn't win the election. I mean, she basically was like, "Oh yeah, Bill Barr said he didn't win the election. There was no fraud." I mean, that was like in the first 5 minutes. They were like, "Okay, here we go. Okay, here's his attorney general. Like, yeah, he's going to say that he lost and that he was full of shit." And his daughter too. Yeah, she's gonna say that he was full of shit. So that was pretty strong. And I guess the problem is, I've been talking to a lot of people, and they're like, "Well, yeah, I mean, all right, it's whatever. They have a lot of evidence, and it's great. And boy, what is it going to do?" But I guess the point is, it's not really. Um, I think it's gotten to such a point where it's so absurd, and there's the sides. There's basically two sides. There's like the crazy side, and then there's the side of the rational people who actually are in touch with reality. So I think it's kind of an opportunity to like lay out in front of people, in mainly, I mean, because mainly the people are going to watch are the ones who are like the rational normal people who have been thirsty for just some kind of normalcy in the last 5 years of kind of like, look, okay, like it's basically them being like, look, this was fucking crazy and like it's completely wrong, and this is what it actually was, and we're going to lay it out in front of you and show you that you're not crazy. You've been gaslit for 5 years, and we're going to show you you're not fucking crazy. Like, I think that's what I'm getting out of it most. It's like, okay, so someone actually is going to like cater to the normal people and be like, this is what happened, and we have proof of it, and everyone's admitting it, and we have everyone on record saying it. You're not crazy. Because that's just what's been going on. There's just this insane sect of the country has had a voice for 5 years, and it's just been spewing, craziness at the rest of the country for just 5 years, basically. And I love, the radical right, which is just seems to be the basically, the GOP. It's basically controlled by the radical right. Um, they're really angry about this. It's like, what's the point of this? We all know what happened. Like, we all know that it was bad. Why rehash it? It's like, what was so funny about that is like after the coup thing happened, where they attacked the Capitol and tried to murder the vice president, and like tried to murder Nancy Pelosi, and everyone just like immediately, like the next day, even that night, the right was just like, hey, can we just move on? Come on, all right, it happened. Yeah, it wasn't cool. Yeah, all right, fine. They murdered the police and they beat the shit out of the police, and they tried to overthrow the government. Come on, we need. How long are you going to hang on to this? Meanwhile, it's just like on that side that all they do is hang on to shit. He's still, even with all this shit coming out, basically his AG, his daughter, all these, his advisors, his lawyers, his campaign, advisors, his the heads of his campaign are basically like, yeah, like the night of the election, he was down by like 20,000 votes in every state, and that's impossible to overcome. And it was clear that he lost, and we told him, and he was like, no, I'm still going to say that I won. I'm just going to go out and say that I won. Even after that, like today, Trump put out a statement saying, that it was a rigged election. I guess I think what's been going on is like, and I can kind of feel it already happening. I think I can feel a little bit of a shift where, and it had been happening, but it hadn't been happening as quickly as it should have. Where he's just becoming like a crazy person, where like people are, I think, and the crazy people who are on that side, they're never going to see it because they're crazy too. So it's kind of like the people in the insane asylum aren't going to be like, oh, that guy's crazy. They're going to be like, oh yeah, he's one of us. But I guess for anyone who has any sense of normalcy, um, it's just kind of like as time goes on and more comes out, Republicans who, worked for him or who were on his side basically are coming out saying he's crazy, that he had these insane claims. It's going to, kind of change the view of him. Like, kind of like what, when you think about, a lot of historical figures like Hitler, there was a time where Hitler, was in power and terrifying. And, no one could cross him or say anything against him because he really was a terrifying figure. And then as time went on, he became like this caricature and joke that no one took seriously because he was such a fucking, obviously such a nut job. And then he had a huge fall from grace. I mean, that's whatever. Like, it didn't end well with him. And I guess what's frustrating with a lot of people is it's taken so long, or it feels like it's taken so long for, because it was so obvious from day one what a crackpot liar he was. And that it's taken this long to kind of actually come out and you can say, have like a hearing, or you can say directly to the American people, like, yes, this guy was a total liar, fraud, piece of shit, crazy person who tried to overthrow the government. You haven't been losing your mind in the last 5 years. And the other thing, I guess it also feels like they're kind of trapping the other side because they're kind of like laying things out. They're kind of revealing their hand very slowly. So, they'll be like today, I guess the big thing was, everyone was saying that Rudy Giuliani was drunk, which is so hilarious when you break this whole thing down. This whole thing started because I guess all of his advisors and everyone in the campaign and his AG and his kids and everyone was like, yeah, it doesn't look like you're going to win. And then, he's like, oh, whatever. And then Rudy Giuliani's fucking wasted in the corner. He's like, you know what? You should just go out and say you won it. He's like, you're my guy. All right. I like where your head's at. And he just listened to that guy. Like, that's the guy he's taking his cues from. But and then the whole thing, the downfall of Giuliani has been one of the most amazing things to watch. It's like, he must be terrifying to be around Donald Trump. He must be like just terrifying, like in being in his presence. Like, you probably feel like he's going to kill you. And I've been around people like that where you're just scared of them. You're almost like in shock. Like, you just don't even know what to say. So I guess that's what it was with him. I guess like just everyone's so scared of him. No one wants to. Even these guys were saying that they told him that he lost and he just wouldn't listen to them. But yeah, it's hilarious to think that that's how it all started. And then Giuliani went around on this whatever tour, clamoring over and over that the election was stolen and all this bullshit. And you saw the crazy shit. And then they had the two people, Sidney Powell, I think, was one of the attorneys, and then I forgot the other woman's name. But watching that happen from the outside, it was just like, do they not have any perspective? I mean, that's the thing that has been so fascinating. It's like, does he just have no perspective of how he's coming off? I think he does. I think he's just so, but what's weird is someone who's so ignorant of their, how they're being perceived can also be so talented in getting, in manipulating people, manipulating the public and getting people behind him. And then the other big thing I think that they're laying out is the whole campaign fund that they start. It's so amazing, like the supporters just don't see through him. And I don't mean this in like a disparaging way. I can't tell if it's like they're really stupid, or they just it's just a cognitive dissonance. I guess it's kind of both, that you can it's just amazing. Like, he's so clearly like a snake oil, salesman. He's just so clearly like a charlatan, that the fact that you would just continue to give this guy money, he's everything he said he was going to do, he like has not done. And then I think or even when he was president, and which is weird too, because I've talked to Trump supporters. I remember when he was still president, and I said that, and they're like, he did everything he said he was going to do. And it's just like, how do you even argue with that? Like, I don't know, how do you, like, he's that adept at getting, and manipulating you, that you somehow have come to believe that he's actually done the things. Because I mean, saying that seems so absurd to me, because then you're just like, well, what about the wall? And then I think that people think he built the wall. even though he didn't build the wall, and the whole thing of the Mexico is going to pay for it. I love how like that didn't even really like come back to haunt him. I mean, that should have just been like game over right there. The oh, we're going to build a wall, Mexico's going to pay for the wall, yeah, and then like none of it happened, and then they kept bringing it up in the 2020 campaign. They're like, election, they're like, so yeah, you said Mexico pay for the wall, and they didn't do it. They're going to pay for it. They're going to no, they said they're not going to pay for it. They will. And people were just like, yeah, he's right, they will, probably this time he'll get it done. It's kind of like when you look outside like a cult like Scientology, and you hear about all these people, and how they they work for Scientology for free, and they give them all their money, and it's just kind of, you sit back scratching your head like, how, like, why would you do this? Like, how could you fall for that over and over? Is it really just dumb? Like, I just don't get it. The fact that you would give him, after the wall funding thing, was a sham, and it came out that Steve Bannon was just using the money to like for plastic surgery and stuff, and like, that turned out to be a total con, and it was exposed. And then now with this, the reelection fund, like they raised $250 million, and I guess they gave $60,000 to fucking Guilfoyle. That chick just looks insane. Like 60 grand to like talk at that January 6th, whatever the fuck that was, rally. Nazi rally. She talked for 2 minutes and she got 60 grand from the reelection fund. I don't know, I've been really enjoying it, but again, a lot of people are like, well, what's he going to do? I mean, you're not going to convince any of the right people. And it's like, but I don't really care if they can. I mean, if you voted for that guy once, if you voted for him once, much less twice, you're like so far gone. I don't even know what to tell you. You're just, like I said, you're either just, I don't really dumb, or just really, I don't know, like crazy or an asshole. I don't really, like I said, it just seemed like from day one, he was so clearly a liar and was never going to do anything. But I guess it's just like people liked his rhetoric. The whole thing about, oh, he tells it like it is. I'm so sick of these bullshit politicians. He really tells it like it is. And it's like, but he just kind of, he wasn't even like a very good speaker, and everyone was like, I'm just so compelled by him. He's like, he's not a good speaker. He's just kind of like, he trips on his words a lot, and he just kind of repeats the same phrases. He comes off really dumb. He doesn't have very good, but I guess that's what it is. I guess people, like dumb people want someone dumb, like they can relate to, because then they're like, well, it's like I'm president, because he's dumb too. But I guess they don't think he's dumb. They think he's smart, but he sounds dumb. And the big revelations that they're kind of unveiling slowly, which I think is good. I mean, I kind of wish they would do it a little quicker, because I do think it seems like they do have a lot of stuff, because apparently I have hours and hours of these like depositions, I mean, the Bill Barr is just going to be, I'm sure they have so much more shit. Just every day they have a new thing where he's like, yeah, and then he said this, and I was like, that's bullshit. And then I was like, yeah, you're the stupidest person in the world. And I love how Bill Barr is kind of like, now he's going to be some big national hero for finally, like Bill Barr did it perfectly. He left right at the right time, so now he can kind of spin his way into, because he was just as bad as all the other ones. He was an enabler. I mean, because Bill Barr knew he was crazy, and that he was doing his bidding, and that he was lying for him, and he was doing whatever. He was acting as his personal attorney, which he wasn't supposed to be, as the AG. And I guess when he was one of those people who's like, okay, fine, this is a bridge too far, I'm gonna fucking get out, when because I it seems like he was just like, there's no way he's going to be able to win this election unless he fucking attacks the Capitol. So I'm not going to stick around for that. And then I'll just kind of, it's funny too, everyone just kind of turns on him eventually. And then he just, without fail turns on them, like it's just like, I love Bill Barr, he's so great, so great. And then he turns, he's like, hey, shit, he sucked the whole time, and I always hated him. It was just immediately turns on him and like takes back everything he ever said. He's just so like transparent. And just the thing that's been most interesting about this watching is like, you just seeing behind the curtain, and like hearing everything went on behind the scenes. You kind of had like an inkling of what it was. Like I had kind of had a hunch of what was going on, but I was like, no, it has to be a lot more complicated. But then it's like, no, it wasn't very complicated. It was just like he was dumb and he was a total egomaniac and he was crazy and everyone was afraid of him and no one wanted to tell him the truth. And Giuliani was just drunk and had this crazy drunk idea when he was drunk, and then they no lawyers would take the case when he was trying to um I don't know, overturn the election, and then these shitty crazy lawyers just kind of like got on board, and then that was it. And then they just toured around and said crazy things, and then months later, Giuliani was on The Masked Singer, and that was just like you're watching the Giuliani thing from like 2000, from like 9/11 to this. It's just like, what the fuck happened to you? Like, did he just lose his? Maybe he has like a drinking problem. Like, maybe it's coming out now that like he just couldn't control his drinking or something. I just love that like Trump was like, oh yeah, look at that really old crazy drunk guy. Yeah, all right, he's gonna be the guy that I take my cues from now on. Okay, well, I'll be back in the next couple of days, and thank you for watching. And if you like this, please give thumbs up and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.